welcome everybody. Just as a reminder, we record these calls for people to listen to the calls when they're not, working and can't join us live. So today's book club, Rockstar Book Club selection is Atomic Habits from James Clear. If you guys could all mute your lines unless you want to speak up, that would keep the any feedback from being shared by all of us. Those of you that were on the call, I think 3 calls ago, we heard a toilet flush. Oh, so fun. I had about 5 people reach out to me and said, did you hear that toilet flush? So don't do that. Or if you're going to do it, you need to mute your line. So I'm curious, did anyone on the call read the book? I know Josie's listening, and she didn't get all the way through it, but has something to share later on. How about everyone else? Who read it? I know, Barry, you said you didn't read it yet. You're too busy reading Fanatical Prospecting 10 times over, right?
That is correct.
So who?
And then Never Split the Difference. Yeah, those 2.
And Never Split the Difference. Is that what you said?
Yeah, sorry. Correct.
Yeah. So you
Hi,
like
Beth.
read
Michael Brandon here. I read it.
All right. Great. Awesome.
And by that I mean I listened to it.
Exactly. Oh, speaking of listening, I don't know if you guys saw my social media post, but just what I did on Monday, I recorded my book for Audible. I'm very excited. It was a really cool experience. So probably in about a month, Don't Say No for the Prospect will be available on Audible. So how cool is that? So, okay, back to Atomic Habits. So I think I'm hearing from everyone, a lot of people felt like it got a little repetitive at the end, and I heard from more than a few people that they didn't finish the book. So, Michael, did you finish the book?
I did.
Did you feel that it was repetitive?
I kind of got a little preachy at the end and maybe a little redundant, but I think that his style is he's just trying to reiterate and ingrain those points. So since I was listening to it, I got over it.
Okay. How? What were 1 or 2 of your takeaways from the book?
I mean, as cliche as this may be, that small changes, big difference, just in terms of adding, to use the Jeb Blunt adage, one more call.
Right.
You add 1 more call, add 5 more calls in a scale of 30 days. That adds up to, call it an extra 100+ calls. That's not insignificant.
Right, for sure. And I think what it turns out to, they said if you do 1% every day for the year, and of course, you don't have to do it every day for the year, but he says if you do 1% better each day, a year later, you will have improved by 37%. That's pretty significant, 37%, right? And I will share with you, those of you that read my book, we had a whole little case study in there with Kara. And by the way, she's not on the call because she's showing. We've got a second-gen restaurant space, and she's got 3 showings today, right now. So let's all mentally wish her well. But she, since the case study we did in Don't Say No for the Prospect, she has upped her game on canvassing. She was, if you guys remember, she had committed to, I think, 60 to 80 prospecting calls a day, and she was doing 70% of those cold calling. After 3 months of doing that, we switched her. We sat down and revisited the process and the systems, and we then upped her canvassing to, she wanted to do 30 a day or, between 100 and 150 a week. And I went canvassing with her for the first time about 2 weeks ago, and the results of her comfort level and her ease and her ability to get information, I was blown away by how just easy it was and how natural it came. And I could see a significant improvement and difference because of the fact that she had, between the time I went with her before and this time, probably had canvassed, 500 to 700 people. And I walked out after the first one and I said, oh my gosh, what a difference. And she goes, right? Like she could feel it herself, that it was just easier. She was able to, the more you do it, the better you get. She can recognize, personalities and styles. And so it was just phenomenal. So I just wanted to put that out there, that it does this, the more you do something, the better you're going to get at it, for sure. Okay, so what about, so Josie, I think you should jump on. You're probably muted, but jump on and talk about habit stacking and say hello to the group.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I read the book. About halfway through. I felt he did get a little redundant at some point. But anyway, I've been trying to pick up a new good habit every month. One of which this month was I was going to start doing crunches or tummy crunches every morning. And I put it on my calendar. And I'm like, okay, lo and behold, I'm going to do this. And I would do it once, skip 2 days. Do it once, skip one more day, do it again. I'm like, okay, this is not working. So I went back to what I learned on the book about habit stacking, and I said, okay, when I come back home every morning from my morning walk with the dogs, I'm going to do my tummy crunches. And lo and behold, it worked. I have been doing it.
Religiously.
Yes, religiously.
Yeah. Anybody else thought that habit stacking was an interesting concept and employed that in your daily world?
Yeah, Beth, this is Mike Corbett.
Hi, Mike.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I do. I kind of get in the hot tub every morning and get all my list for the day going, and I started meditating the first 10 minutes, and I've really stuck with that. The other thing that I did, which is really kind of making a big difference, is I started to do a new CRM, and I just did a little bit. I said, I'll do the first 20 minutes. I'll just add to it. I found this great CRM called Zoho, which is free, and it's been about 40 days, and I've got close to 800, and they're all, retailers, all retail-related contacts, and it's pretty amazing because then I get excited about it, and instead of 20 minutes, I'll do 30 minutes, and
right.
It's amazing how quickly that builds up. So I'm all about that book. I thought it was the whole 1% rule, I think, is what we're all striving to do, is just get a little bit better, and once you see improvement, it makes a big difference.
Awesome. I'm so glad that I love that you're on these calls, Mike. Tell everyone where you're from.
Yeah, I love being on them. Great calls.
Tell everyone where you're from.
I'm in the Bay Area from Harsh Investment. I've been with this company almost 20 years. We're family-owned, but got about 23 million square feet throughout the West, mainly. A lot of that's multi-tenant industrial, but I run the retail division. And we're not that big on that. We've only got about 3 million square feet on that side of it.
Well, we love having West Coasters on the call. But yeah. I love what he talks about. He says, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, which I thought that statement was phenomenal, which is so true, and he says winners and losers have the same goals. So, we can all sit down and write a goal that we want to, conquer a new CRM platform. But if we don't do the habits like Mike is doing every day for 20 minutes, then it doesn't matter what your goal is, right? If you don't put the execution behind it. And he also talks about when you have goals, when you're focused on the goal part of it versus the system part of it, then you're only happy once when you've achieved the goal, right? But if you focus on the systems part of it, and exactly what Mike said, he gets excited when he's doing the CRM, and then he wants to do it a little more. So his happiness and enjoyment and sense of accomplishment is in the system versus he did comment, and now I have 800. That's great. But if you're all wrapped up in, I want to get to 800, then what James Clear says is you're not feeding that emotional, resolution of satisfaction when you're focused on the goal and not on the process. And I thought that was pretty, interesting as I was reading it, going, aha. And then I just heard kind of that in Mike's voice that he was just talking about his experience. How about the comment about the stone cutter? So I'm sure you guys have all seen that. There's a little cartoon where there's two guys and they're in their backyard and they're digging, and they're digging and they're digging and they're digging, and then one guy, they're both covered with sweat, and one guy just kind of puts down the shovel and walks away, and the other guy, keeps digging, and the guy that walks away, you can see in the cartoon that the gold is like in the next shovel. So, and the story in Atomic Habits where he talks about the stone cutter. And the stone cutter is, I guess, with an axe or a hammer, hammering away, and nothing's happening. And 100, I guess, chops or cuts or pounds, whatever it is, and with a hammer, 100. And then in the 101 hit, the stone breaks. And I feel that way. He talks about that you even, little habit, don't focus on, okay, well, I've done, I've done crunches, like what Josie said, I've done crunches for 2 weeks in a row. Why don't I have, a flat stomach? Well, because it takes, 3, 4, 5, 6 months or whatever to reach a goal. And you need, and he talks a lot about identity, right? With, if your pride is, if you're proud of your identity. So the bodybuilder is proud of his physique. If you identify and are proud of an identity you have, you will be more motivated to continue the habits that create the identity. Did any of you get that when you were reading the book, and could you relate to that, anything in your life about that? No? Okay. How about probably my favorite, I love the story of the bikers. So for those of you that didn't read the book, there was a bike, I think it was French bicyclist team, and they had never won ever in these, world-renowned bike races. And a new coach, I think, comes onto the scene, and he reverse engineers every little thing about the bicyclists. And his vow was to improve 1% in every area, whether it was what the clothes they were wearing, their haircuts, what they ate, how they slept, every little thing that they could reverse engineer, they tried to improve 1%. And then, the team won. After they were doing this for a while, this bicyclist team won going forward, many, many, many races. And in the end of the book, for those of you didn't get there, they talk about Pat Riley and the LA Lakers and how everyone, in a certain era before they started winning, everyone kept saying they had the talent, this is going to be the team of the century, they have the talent, but they didn't get to the playoffs. And Pat Riley got very frustrated. And he, let's see if I can find it in the book, he called it I was thinking it was like a CRM, but it was a CR something. And what he did, the same thing as the bicyclist, is he broke down, he called it the CBE. Let me see what it stands for. And he broke down every, the same thing, different habits that he said that, it's CBE, career best effort. And in the book he says it was similar to the British cycling team. And he pointed that Riley said it wasn't merely about points or statistics, but giving your best effort spiritually and mentally and physically. And that players got credit for allowing an opponent to run into you when you know that a foul will be called against them, or diving for loose balls, or going after rebounds, whether you are likely to get them or not, because you are helping out a teammate when the player he's guarding has surged past him, or other unsung deeds. And he talks about Magic Johnson and how he consistently had, way more CBE numbers than anyone else. But, and you guys have heard me talk about this, how important stats are, right? And even in the book, in the Kara case study, how many cold calls are you doing? How many canvases? How many Facebook prospects? How many LinkedIn prospects? And understanding what's your average commission, and if you want to reach your goal, how many deals do you have? And then backing that out, so okay, I need to do 80 cold calls a day, or 150 prospects, overall a week, or whatever it is, and then every 90 days looking back and checking that, because if you don't know what your stats are, you're definitely never going to reach your goals. And I think I spoke about this on last month's call as well. Kara went through a little bit of a slump about 5 or 6 weeks ago. We noticed that for a whole week she had only shown space once. And I said, oh my gosh, what happened? Why is that? Were you candidated? And then we remembered the Jeb Blunt book, and I think it's the 30-day theory, or he calls it something. And we looked back, and 30 days prior, Kara was out for 3 days because she had her wisdom teeth pulled. And it was like poof, just, oh my gosh, how this stuff really works. 4 weeks ago, she was out for 3 days, didn't do her numbers, and in the Jeb Blunt example, here it is 30 days later, and her showings were off. Her average showings, like today she's got 3 showings. Yesterday she had 2 showings. I think her average showings per week are probably in the 5 to 8 range, and that 1 week she had 1 showing. So this is real. This really it works. And I loved when he talked about Pat Riley and how he, any type of statistic that they could break down and review, was something that he felt. And then of course the story ends with, they have they're the team of the decade, right? They win more national championships than any other team. So I know, Barry, you do a lot of breaking down of your activities.
Yeah, and in fact, as you said, I didn't read this book, but it sounds really, really similar to a book I either listened to or read, I can't remember which, but it was excellent, called The Compound Effect. And it was all about that, just little, very, very incremental improvements. Like you said, you add even 0.25% improvement every day or every week over the course of a year. It's enormous. And that it was all about that. And I know you're talking about the process and, enjoying the process. That sounds familiar with a guy we listened to a little bit, Gary Vaynerchuk. And he talks about buying the jets, and he always talks about, it's all about the process. And I don't even care if I ever do buy the jets. It's the process, and really enjoying the chase of it more than maybe someday even, standing at a podium buying the jets. So, as far as tracking, I think it all ties together. Agreed.
And you track, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, how long have you been tracking?
For a long time, a bunch of years. And I do find, if I get off of it is when, I'm, as you said, I've been going back and re-listening to Fanatical Prospecting, and you talk about the 30-day rule. And I do find, if I get off of that, a couple of weeks down the road or a month down the road, all of a sudden you look back and it's like, why is my pipeline not where I want it to be? And, I wasn't tracking, or I didn't do, go and make these calls that week. And it does. I mean, you got to kind of track it to see where you're at. And I know, in Fanatical Prospecting, he talks about, all athletes know. If you go talk to any professional baseball player or athlete, they know every umpteen statistics about how they're performing. And we in sales, we don't generally get to that level of detail or even track it, and it's important, definitely.
Yeah, he says in the book, professionals stick with their schedules, amateurs let life get in the way. I love that. Professionals stick to the schedule. Amateurs let life get in the way, right? So you can imagine an Olympic athlete is going to get up no matter what, right? That's his job. No matter what, he's going to get up and go, ski the moguls or swim the laps or run, whatever it is. He's going to stick to the schedule. And amateurs, completing sales and executing on sales is our job. It's just like an Olympic athlete, that's their job. And how often, we don't need to prospect today, right? I mean, we don't feel good, we're under the weather, or we let interruptions delay us or derail us from doing the habits that are necessary for us to complete our jobs, for sure, right?
That's along those lines. There's a book I read recently. I can't remember who the author was, but she talks about playing offense and not defense, and it's along those lines. And that actually stuck with me as much as anything in your book, Beth, was really that one line where you mentioned playing offense and not defense and being proactive and not reactive, and that's exactly what you're talking about is, the best in the business or athletes, they're playing offense and they're not reacting. I mean, they're being very proactive and they're pushing it themselves and not responding to what others are doing.
Well, right, and where that comes from is it's so easy. It's in our human nature, everyone's human nature, to help people. So, we're sitting at our desk, we've got our phone in front of us, or Facebook prospecting, or we're getting ready to go canvassing, or we're out canvassing, and we get that interruption. And that interruption is, hey, can I talk to you about the striping and sealing bid at your property? Or can I ask you, the accountant's calling, taxes are due, and we have 3 questions. And it's just human nature to react, stop what we're doing, and respond. Half the time, and I hear this from everyone, half the time leaders, and we're all leaders, if we did not respond to that person, they would figure out the answer on their own. And if you waited until 5 or 6 and said, I'll call you at 6, or let me know later on at 4, 5, 6 o'clock, I'll call you back and we can go over the list of things you need from me from the day, 9 times out of 10, that list of 8 things boils down to 2 because the other 6 they handled. But it's just easy to, okay, let me stop being proactive. Let me stop doing offense things and help someone else and be reactionary and do the defense. So I just think that's human nature. James Clear says, and going back to Barry, what you said about the compound effect, which I have not read that. I need to put that on my list. Do you recommend it?
Yeah, it's excellent. And in fact, I'll throw it out there if anybody's interested. It's written by Darren Daly. And if you Google him, he does, again, talking along the lines of compounding effect and just like small daily incremental improvement, he has something called Darren Daily where you subscribe to those emails and it's free. You get like a 3-minute video email early every morning. And it's like not productivity tip, more a self-improvement type tip or idea that I look forward to every day. I've done those for several years, and I get some fantastic ideas out of. I highly recommend that.
And his name is
Darren Hardy, Hardy, and he does this program, it's called Darren Dailies. He sends out DAILY. I can shoot you one and you can get to folks, but you just Google him and Darren Daily, and you subscribe and you get an video email in your inbox every day, and it's just like a little, self-improvement type idea that he talks about.
Someone else is jumping in.
Oh, I was going to mention Beth. Sorry, Barry and Beth. James Clear also has a email newsletter that he puts out that's, it's a smaller format. He breaks down individual topics, but I've enjoyed it thus far. I think he mentions it in the book, puts it out weekly. Yes,
awesome. So going along the idea of what Barry just said about this book called The Compound Effect, in James Clear's book, The Atomic Habits, he says, habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. So I love that. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. That's cool. And he says, then he talked about, I thought this was very interesting, and I'm curious for those of you on the phone that read the book, and even those that have not, he says that we imitate habits. So first of all, he says that we don't choose our earliest habits, we imitate them. And you think about that, right? We imitate from other people our earliest habits. And then he says what he wants you to do is he wants you to imitate habits from 3 different groups. Or I guess we tend to imitate habits from 3 different groups. 1, the people close to us. 2, groups of many, right? So I would tell you my working out habit has definitely come from groups of many, because it became a trendy thing to work out. And, you cannot turn on any podcast really, or read any book, or even the newspaper, or be at dinner with your friends when the many aren't talking about working out. And I figured I better jump on this bandwagon. It's obviously the thing to do, and of course it's good for your health. So, and then the 3rd group is the powerful. So he says we imitate habits from people close to us, groups of many, and then powerful people. Like, for example, how many times have you heard the whole Warren Buffett reading 60 books a year, right? And people use that all the time. And they say, well, if Warren Buffett reads 60 books a year, I should read one book a month, right? Or the CEO reads however many books a CEO reads, and those are powerful people, and we imitate habits. Did anyone? What did you guys think about that? Any thoughts? No. Okay, moving on. The other quote thing that I read that I thought was interesting is, "Be the designer of your world versus the consumer." I kind of think this goes along with offense versus defense. So be the designer of your world. You create the world you want. Don't just consume it or assume what's happening around you. So take action, right? So I think I thought that was interesting. I loved this. This I really loved, and I feel that this has a lot to do with commercial real estate and social media. You can't win by being better. No, if you can't win, that didn't make sense. If you can't win by being better, then win by being different. So, of course, we would all love to win by being better. But there's a lot of great, smart investment sale brokers. There's a lot of great, smart leasing agents. There's a lot of great, smart, whatever we do, right? So what he's saying is the competition is less, is thinner in being different. And for sure, I'm seeing that in our new world of social media where, I find that less than 5% of commercial real estate folks are active in social media. So, and that I think is putting us, the ones of us that are doing it, is causing us to be different. Who has a thought on that? Barry or Michael
I think absolutely being different. If you look at like leasing or investment sales, I can't be the absolute best. There can only be one best in reality if you look at it that way. So I agree. It's being really, really good and staying on top of things, but then being professional but being different and just standing out and staying top of mind, doing what you can to stay top of mind, which is what social media is all about.
Someone else was going to say something?
Beth, it's Eddie from Phoenix.
Yes, Eddie.
This was one of my and my business partner's idea when we started wearing beards, with the being different thing. In Phoenix, when you walk into a room full of commercial real estate brokers, you've got black pants, blue shirts, shaved faces, and the same haircut. That's why I started growing the big beard. I want to be the big bearded guy. I'm a little bit different.
Love that. And it's worked, right?
Absolutely. Every day I have conversations about the beard, and people remember me because of it.
So, I've been wondering why you haven't changed your picture. I think on either LinkedIn. Is your picture still an unbearded face?
It's a short bearded face, and that's because SVN wants it to be that way.
Oh,
it's more of a corporate thing. Yeah.
I hate that. Well, I love the bearded differentiation. You know, as you know, you've commented, what is my differentiation? One of them, my brands.
You're red.
Lady in
red
red.
color. Yeah.
My red. Eddie, I posted a picture on Facebook or on Instagram the other day. I'm so brand new into Instagram, I don't even know what I'm doing. But I posted a picture on Sibling Day of my sister and I, and Eddie wrote, "Oh my gosh, this is the first time I've ever not seen you in red." It's true. I love it. But yeah, you know, a young man came to my workshop, and he said, "I want to do something to stand out." We were talking about, you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you, and how do you stand out and get people to know you, especially the national retailers. And he lived in Charleston. And I said, you know, and he had like a Southern accent. And I said, "Well, do you ever wear bow ties?" And he goes, "Yeah, you know, I wear bow ties." I said, "Well, I would only ever wear bow ties. You know, even if with shorts and, you know, a button-down Oxford shirt, wear a bow tie. Be the bow tie guy." And he did. And he, like, a year later called me and he said it was the best thing he ever did for his business, being the bow tie guy. So
hey,
I think,
Beth, it's Mike again.
Yeah.
Just real quick on the difference thing. I was talking to a CPA. He was going to help me get some of the finance stuff together, and he said, "Oh, I'm on your LinkedIn." He said, "You should change your background picture on LinkedIn." I went on LinkedIn. I was like, "Oh, okay." So just a little thing like that. If you look, you know, that you have that blue LinkedIn kind of squiggly lines things on the back. But so I went in and just added one of my shopping centers in the background, and it you know, it pops out different than everyone else. So just a little tip that I thought, you know, you were talking about difference, making a difference. Just little stuff like that, I think, will make you stand out a little bit more.
Absolutely. You know, Barry and I have been practicing, right, Barry, on LinkedIn, trying to learn new things. And he and I both put something after our name. Like I had Beth Azor, CRE leasing coach. And so every time you would see my name, it would say CRE leasing coach after my name. And Barry added, what did you add, Barry? Triple Net Lease Pro?
Net Lease Pro.
Well, all of a sudden, you know, LinkedIn is going through a lot of changes. And all of a sudden, people started, like, emailing me saying, "I can't find you on LinkedIn. Did you drop off LinkedIn?" And you know, and Barry, and Josie, like, they were trying to find me and they couldn't find me. And so someone from LinkedIn said, "Drop that moniker after your name," and we did. And then my name started popping up. So, but yeah, I have a different background behind my name too. But this whole social media thing is every day you learn a new thing. It's fascinating and fun, but it's not easy for sure, and it's frustrating. It's, you know, you think, you know, we were just Barry and I were on a call yesterday talking about LinkedIn, and even though they'll say they'll send you should connect with this person, and then you reach out and connect. If you over connect with too many people that don't, you know, welcome your connection, then LinkedIn will send you a little note, you know, you're connecting with too many people you don't know. So it's frustrating, but it's just the way of the world. It's the new thing. I'm sure, you know, in the 1920s when people started driving, it was frustrating too, because, you know, people were learning all kinds of things. They probably learned we need stoplights for stop signs. So yeah, but being different, you know, if you can't win by being better because the field is too wide, then being different. So I like that. What did you guys think about the imitating habits from 3 groups? Eddie, what did you think about that? Did you think about what habits, you know, you've been working out. Have you always worked out, or did you just start working out?
I have always been somewhat of a workout type person, although when I started the 100-day challenge, that's what the differentiator was. And it was funny, I was talking to one of my other coaches the other day, and I know every single day at 5 o'clock, I stop for an hour. Sometimes I have to go back to work, and my gym clothes are sitting in my truck, and I know that I am going to go north on 16th Street, and I am going to stop at the gym for an hour no matter what is happening.
But was that because of a habit, because of people close to you, many people, or powerful people? Where did that habit come from? Because he says all habits come from those three groups.
Yeah, I think it would be more of a social thing because it started on social media. So, and then I was posting it, and then it got to the point where it was an everyday thing, and I wasn't even posting it anymore, and I just know that either I'm going hiking or I'm going to the gym.
Yeah, I mean, look, I watch, some of us have the connections here, Jason or Blake or you, and I'm telling you, when I see you guys out working out, I feel guilty. I'm like, okay, I have to go work out and post. It's like silliness. It just sounds so silly, but if it makes me healthier, then why the hell not? It's a good thing. It's a good thing if my friends, even though we're not friends in the old definition of friends, like because you're my neighbor or I see you for drinks once a month or whatever, I truly believe we are very close social media friends. I feel like I have this whole friendship with people that I see on my phone. It's just really, at 58 years old, it's very bizarre.
It's amazing. I love it. There's so many people that I shouldn't be friends with, but I am. I talk to Gabriel like every day now because of Instagram.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dal. Yes, sir.
Did you guys miss me? Hello?
Yeah, you went dark on us there for a bit.
I'm sorry. I got disconnected. I apologize. And we were in the middle of sharing how these new friends on social. So, Michael, have you done any social media, Mike Corbett?
Oh yeah, no, I'm on LinkedIn pretty heavily, and that's the big one. I from a personal thing, because I have 3 daughters in their early 20s, and so they've got me on Instagram. But I told them I didn't want any of the likes thing. I just wanted to put photos that I like with landscape and pets, but I look at my daughter who is 20, just turned 21, and she's got 1,000+ followers, and you got these social media companies reaching out to her to say, hey, would you wear our product? And so I said, there's got to be something to that.
Yeah.
But for me, I mean, I'm kind of old school like you, Beth, and I'm trying to learn new ways to skin the cat. But I think LinkedIn and using video and using, selectively, not trying to overdo something every day, because I think people get tired of that. But I think LinkedIn, obviously, for us is probably the biggest one, as far as promoting what we do.
Are you starting to make Vegas appointments, and are you doing it through LinkedIn direct messaging?
Yes and no. I'm definitely making appointments, but it's more just email and texting, things of that sort. If someone reaches out to me through LinkedIn, I'll respond back that way.
Yeah, it's amazing how many retailers are not on LinkedIn still. I guess Chris Russell and I were talking about this the other day. I guess they don't need to be, but there's a few that are. And when I reach out on LinkedIn to get appointments for Vegas, if they are active on LinkedIn, I get responses a lot quicker than getting lost in their email hell.
Yeah, it's across the board. It's different because I've sent people LinkedIn messages, and then they're not as up to date with LinkedIn and not following it. So it does. Sometimes I won't hear back for a month, and they'll go, "Oh, I don't check my LinkedIn messages."
Right.
So I don't know, but the other one is that I've gotten on just recently in the last 30 days is Twitter. I have not done that, and once again my daughters kind of were more into it and kind of talking about groups and influencing. My daughters were the ones that kind of said, "Oh, you should just get on." So I follow a lot of retail gurus, the Retail Prophet, and a bunch of different people, not only in the States but in Britain, and get their take of where retail is going. And I find that's been very informative. And I'll look, kind of on a daily basis, just what the latest and greatest thoughts are, and that's been fun to follow.
Yeah, they call Twitter the water cooler of our, of this generation, and certainly I feel that. I'll never forget, you never forget the certain times in your life. And I remember I was in a bank drive-through lane listening to CNBC when it was announced that Amazon had bought Whole Foods, and I immediately went to Twitter, to see if it was true, and see the comments of everyone. So yeah, I feel that Twitter is like the up to date news, right? That whatever's trending. So that's how I use Twitter.
Yeah.
Either of the Michaels or Eddie, or the ones of you guys that read the book, other thoughts? I'll read. I don't know if you guys saw this near the end of the book, and I don't know how to pronounce the name exactly, but Lao Tzu, and this is a quote.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Men are born soft and supple. Dead, they are stiff and hard. Plants are born tender and pliant. Dead, they are brittle and dry. Thus, whoever is stiff and inflexible is a disciple of death. Whoever is soft and yielding is a disciple of life. The hard and stiff will be broken. The soft and supple will prevail. If that's not about social media in our generation, I don't know what is. But I think, being flexible is so important, especially in our world of retail and our ever-changing world of retail. So, what do you guys think about, remaining flexible when it comes to, I did a speech just a couple of days ago at Retail Live in Orlando, and I kept saying, there's a large audience, pretty good audience, and I said, raise your hand if you've heard of Zillow for, residential real estate. And everyone raised their hand, and I said, "So, raise your hand if you think something like that's coming for us." And people, a couple, like 10%, kind of slowly raised their hands. And I said, "For sure, there's some groups thinking about that, and how is that going to disrupt our business?" And I kind of saw some people's eyes get wide, like, really? But we cannot afford to be the taxi drivers in an Uber industry, right? So maybe we're not going to get disrupted like that, but we might. It certainly has happened in a related, very close field to ours.
Hey, Beth, Mike again. It's happening already. I was in Monterey at ICSC last month. On the panel, my friend was doing it from JLL. On the panel was a guy from Locate AI out of San Francisco. And basically, they'll do kind of the geofencing, and where they put a parameters around a center or a city, and they'll tell you where you've been, the shoppers, in the last 4 years. They can say they went there, they went there, they went there. This is where they sleep at night. And basically now they're hooking up with brokerages or becoming the broker. So they'll go to a retailer, Ulta, and say, get rid of your broker. I want to tell you exactly where to go. And they haven't got there yet, but I had drinks with the guy that's in house with them later that night. And he said, "Oh no, we've got a few retailers, they're not big ones yet, but we're getting there." So I think AI is going to definitely blow up and be more of a player than we probably know in the next 5-10 years for sure.
So Beth, can I interject another thing?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the company Buxton? They spend a lot of money. A lot of bigger or big retailers use them. Yeah. They announced recently a joint venture or some kind of relationship with CoStar, which I'm fortunate that one of my tenant clients gave me their user login to use Buxton on their behalf, and I could kind of see this unrolling. But effectively, the partnership between them is the analytical data that they're feeding the retailer on site selection, and then to plug them into the actual, however you feel about CoStar is one other thing, but a database of conceivably available properties. So it's kind of like, okay, you're partnering to sort of push me out of a job.
Yeah. Well,
but fundamentally, they can't
look,
get the deal done.
Right. So I, months ago, before I went to Shop Talk, I believed the tenant rep industry was on the significant downward trend. And I was talking to, major network brokerage firms, and they were confirming for sure that tenant rep fees were significantly down, and many tenant rep brokers were jumping ship and going to the landlord side of things or investment sales. Then I went to Shop Talk. And what I learned at Shop Talk and the OAC, the ICSC's Open Air Conference in Austin, and both of those shows opened my eyes to a shocking statistic that there, if you would have said to me again a month ago when I was in this mode of thinking, how many online retailers are there out there that are like successful and considering opening bricks and mortar stores? And I would have said, 10. I truly did it. I thought, I could say, okay, Bonobos on Tuckett, Warby Parker. Okay, there's 3. Maybe there's 7 more. Well, I went to these 2 conferences and learned that there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of what they call now, on our name of online retailers is called DNBs, digitally native brands, and there's a group called the Fifth Wall, and Fifth Wall is a private equity funding source for these online retailers, and they put up a slide that thank God I got it before, because everyone asked them for it and they wouldn't give it to them. I took a picture with my phone. They wrote on the slide that, and Barry, you can't answer, and I don't know if you guys have heard me say this, how many online retailers, how many locations have online retail opened in the last 12 months? Who knows the answer? Or who wants to throw out a guess?
I'm going with 400.
850. 850.
By the way, Beth,
is Amazon one of them?
Our committees.
Oh, each of you say what you said.
Mike asked, is Amazon one of them?
Oh, they didn't make. I presume Amazon was one of them, and maybe they did their 5 or 7 Amazon to goes and their 5 bookstores. Probably is in there. But 850 bricks and mortar locations were opened in the last 12 months by online retailers. And Barry mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk. I was on a live call with him a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him, because he's a predictor of trends, on these DMVs, Gary, do you think how many? I said, what percentage of them do you think are going to open bricks and mortar? And he said, tons and tons. He said, any of them that are raising Series C money, which is $40 to $80 million, he said, track those, because that's what they're going to use the money for. So I came out of those 2 conferences with a whole, more excitement for, I don't do tenant rep, but it's obviously a significant part of our industry, and I certainly pay a lot of brokers that, bring tenants to my portfolio. But I just felt better for our whole tenant rep industry. And as I'm talking now, since I've left those two conferences and I'm talking to other tenant rep brokerage firms, none of them are, or hopefully they're going to start now that I've been telling them that they need to, but none of them had been going and approaching either the private equity firms or you can, there's probably, in Mike's, geographic piece of the world, there's probably 100 based out there and 100 based in New York, and tenant rep firms can just go to those markets and start visiting them. There's a woman in New York or New Jersey, Melissa Gonzalez. She runs a group called the Lioness Group. She is the self-proclaimed site selector for these online retailers. I'm not sure she has a real estate license. So there's opportunity, whether or not Buxton or geofencing, certainly the online retailers would embrace an AI format for locations right over a Dick's or an Ulta, because they're, Dick's and Ulta have to they have to adapt and change from doing something they've been doing for all these years, right? And these online retailers don't know from that. They're not stuck into, well, we've always done it this way. But, I still believe and hope that the personal input and advice on markets and intangibles that maybe an AI thus far can't give feedback on will still be valuable. Any thoughts on all of that? Okay, so it's 12:23. Josie, are you still on? And I don't remember what the book is next month. I'm not with Josie today at the office. What the book is and what the date is. And then I'm going to, for anybody on the phone that does not have a copy of my book, if you email me now that you would like a signed copy, I will give the 1st, the 13th, and the 47th emails, signed copy of my book. So email me now, and whoever's in that queue, 1st, 13th, and 47th, I'll send you a signed book and a button if you want it. Tell me in the email if you want a button. Josie,
hi. Yep, the next book is Rejection Proof, How I Beat Fear and Became Invincible Through 100 Days of Rejection, on May 17th.
So right before Vegas. Oh, I wonder if we're going to have to change that date. But we'll hold it for right now, May 17th. And I started reading this book. Fascinating. This guy who was very shy and wanted to overcome a rejection. One of the first stories is he puts on a soccer outfit, shins, soccer ball, etc., and he goes into a neighborhood and knocks on a door and says, "Can I go play soccer in your backyard?" And the guy let him. So I just started listening to it, but it is for us, our whole world is about overcoming rejection. So I thought it would be a fun book. And so any other questions before we end? I hope you guys have a great week and month, and I hope we all see each other in Vegas. Eddie, are you going to be in Vegas? Eddie might have dropped off. All right, guys. So if you want a signed copy of the book, the 1st, email 13th and 47th. Have a great, great rest of your month. Take care. Thanks for being on the call.